Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Steelers Chat. I'm here with a special guest today, Zachary Smith from Around the 412. How you doing today?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. Big fan over here.
Yeah. So I'm excited to talk about our Steelers and most importantly, after a W. I mean,
Yes.
they're not coming as quickly and as fastly and as frequently as we'd like them, but hey, we got to relish in the fact that we have one.
Yeah, I mean, looking at the schedule that they had after the Jets game, I thought we'd be waiting a lot longer too. So upset win on Sunday. Nice to see. Got to enjoy a victory Monday. And
Yes.
yeah, I'm glad to talk about it.
Yeah, so let's get into the secondary because I think that was
Ooh.
where everyone was kind of like, okay, we don't have our secondary out there. Who to you on that secondary just kind of showed up and showed out? I'll
I,
give you my pick after.
yeah, I'm gonna try to. So I know who some of your guys are. So I don't want to like steal your thunder. Maybe I will anyway. But like, I mean, how can I not say James Pierre? I've talked about him every day since that game. I just admire the work that he put in out there. I
Mhm.
mean, like you talk about a guy that I think people were probably way too high on after 2020 coming into 2021. The whole Steven Nelson situation. Obviously,
Yeah,
they moved on, and people were like, "Don't worry about it. We can just plug and play James Pierre." The dude played 38 snaps in 2020. Like the sample size was way too small to have that type of trust in him. And obviously things didn't go so well in 2021. He finds himself like fourth or fifth on the depth chart by season's
right.
end. And then to just kind of put his head down, keep working, and have the performance that he did on Sunday to go to show like, okay, there is still something there. He's a developmental corner that we need to take our time with
Mhm.
and just get ready for these situations. And that's what reps and time will do for him. But he played 94% of the team's snaps, operated as their number one corner. He didn't shadow Evans or Godwin. He was kind of moving around. But I mean, just what a performance from him.
Yeah, he did. He did do well. I was impressed and happy for him, right? Knowing what he kind of went through last year, and of course, yes, I was rooting for him in camp and all the way through. I was glad he was on the team. So
Mhm.
for him to be able to come back and put on that showing, I was happy for him. But a guy that besides Terrell Edmonds, I want to give Terrell Edmonds all the credit and shine. He deserves it. I think underrated on the team as well, but Arthur Millette.
See,
I
I stayed away from it. I stayed away
Yeah,
from it for you.
Arthur Millette. I just think he just came in as the leader, as a leader, not the leader, but a leader on that team,
Mhm.
at the perfect time. And I always look at him as a vocal, angry monster, and I think his style of play was perfect for that game. So I don't know. Yeah, I can't say too much more than like I just think he was great. I did think he
Yeah,
was
he
great.
plays a lot bigger than what his stature is, that's for
Mhm.
sure. I think that, talking about the Steelers trying to plug and play guys once they find a successful style of play, I think what they envision with him is like a little bit of a Mike Hilton type of role.
Yeah, yeah.
His ability to be a run stopper from the slot corner position, say what you will, not necessarily the best coverage guy, but what he does around the line of scrimmage and blowing up plays in the backfield. I
Mhm.
mean, I think he had 2 or 3 tackles for loss in this game. Just yeah, he definitely contributed in a big way, and that's not even talking about. You mentioned him being a vocal leader. We saw, it came out after the Buffalo game that he was very vocal about guys kind of being a little bit too happy for a team that just lost by
Mhm.
35 points,
Yeah.
and I think that probably played a big role in their performance on Sunday. Those guys were like, we're not going to have that happen to us again. So
Yeah, I mean, play angry. Like I just love what I see from him, just coming out there looking like someone already stole his lunch and he's going to go retrieve it. So I want that energy to continue. I have to have
yeah,
that.
absolutely.
But going into this game, it appears that we're going to be getting some of the secondary back.
Hmm.
So what are
Yeah.
you seeing from this matchup defensively first, and then we'll kind of move on to the offense.
Well, what's so tough is, and these guys have still been productive, but Jalen Waddle and Tyreek Hill have both been banged up for a while. Like everybody's talking about the Tua situation. I think that's kind of like stealing the spotlight. But and Jalen Waddle didn't practice on Wednesday. Now, Wednesday is typically the day, like if you're limited with anything, you're not going to practice or be limited anyway. So it's not necessarily the best of gauge where he's
Right.
at. But yeah, both those guys have been banged up, but they've been productive even while banged up. And I don't know that there's a guy on the Steelers that I'm looking at like, yep, this is the guy that's going to be able to shut down Tyreek Hill. This is the guy that's going to be able to shut down Jalen Waddle. It's going to be another collective effort thing. I don't imagine that we'll see anybody shadowing anybody, even if you do get the likes of Akella Witherspoon and Cam Sutton and Levi Wallace back. I'm not like circling one guy. I'm just looking at what they're going to be able to do collectively.
Collectively,
You
yeah.
briefly brought up Terrell Edmonds, talking about the last game. I mean, to me, I think that you look at the Buffalo game to the Tampa Bay game and you saw the importance of what he does back there.
Absolutely.
I don't think that they beat the Bills if he's in the lineup. I'm not saying he makes a 35-point difference, but I think the lack of communication on the back end is what you saw in the Buffalo game. And while
Mhm.
he's not the greatest, he doesn't have the best ball skills, he's not the greatest athlete. That's what he brings. He's a very intelligent football player. And you need guys like that when you don't have necessarily the greatest athletes to be able to cover a Tyreek Hill.
So yeah, so I mean, the athleticism, but durability. So we're not used to not having a Terrell Edmonds out there, right? So
Hmm.
that was a big eye opener and great for him going forward because I believe he only signed a 1 year deal with us.
Correct. Yeah.
So you know, his the loss of him just showed us significantly how much he matters to that defense. And you know, without Minka Fitzpatrick being out there last week and Terrell being out there, it showed even more. So kudos to him. Akilo, limited in practice, still coming off that hamstring injury. I think what we saw on the defense on Sunday against Tampa Bay was a lot of personnel changes, just a lot of different crazy looks. Communication wasn't 100% because I just don't think the guys knew what was happening sometimes. Like, there was a lot of last minute running in and out. You're supposed to be here, you're supposed to be there. I think they cleaned that up on Sunday. And I didn't see Miles Jack on the injury report. Did you?
I thought he was limited on Wednesday.
Okay.
The
Okay.
thing is, yeah, so on Sunday he got hurt in like the second quarter, but he grinded his way through it. Like he ended up
Yeah.
playing the game. He finished the game. I would anticipate that he's going to be out there, barring like some type of setback in practice. But they're just going to take it easy with him. He's a guy that you know. He's not a rookie or second year player where you need him to
Right.
practice throughout the week. I don't think he
Mhm.
needs to even practice on Friday because that's typically like a big thing. You got to either be limited or get in a full practice. In his case, a veteran like him, I'm not so sure that he really needs that
Yeah,
many practice reps.
he was, I mean, just I think it actually happened a little bit earlier in the game and he kind of fought through it.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was struggling that game. I think some sort of foot injury or something of the sort. But
Mhm.
he's critical to me because he's like top in tackles, right? You
Right.
need that
Yeah.
guy. You need him to be disruptive and make those plays that a guy maybe misses for whatever reason. And shout out to Devin Bush. I think he's proving to the fan base that he's that guy. He's the guy that can make plays. Um,
Yeah, you know what's so interesting about Devin Bush falls into this category, Chase Claypool falls into this category. Like it's weird that I think you can definitely be critical of guys. Like I'm not
yeah,
somebody that's just like optimism, optimism, optimism for everybody across the board. But like you have to be willing to be fluid with your opinions as well. Like these
mhm.
guys went out and were major contributors in a massive win on Sunday. Why can't people just accept that and give them their flowers for doing so? As opposed to trying to push a narrative that they've had created in their mind for like 3 years now.
And I think that's where I find myself, in that, right? I get stuck. Like, these are one, we're human beings. Nobody goes to work and does their job to perfection every day, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so these guys are not always going to make every tackle. They're going to make mistakes. And I always speak to the mental aspect of defense, right? Because you have to remember and be like 10 steps ahead of what the quarterback's going to do, what the receivers are going to do, the routes and all that stuff. So there is a level of mental fatigue that people don't even consider when it comes to the DBs and the corners and stuff like that. They just don't even consider it. So I have to give these guys props for doing their job and getting the win. So I appreciate you saying that because it's
Yeah,
so
I mean,
easy for us to hop on and hop off whenever we feel like it's not going right.
yeah, especially in the case of, like, Devin, who suffered a very serious injury,
Mhm.
and to even be and I know that a bunch of people have talked about this, and Tomlin was just happy with the fact that he was able to get through the entirety of last season, like, commended him just for
Yeah.
being available for the team. Those things, they take a lot of time, especially because like we don't even know the severity of it. We just know torn ACL. You hear that, and it's like, okay, well, he's gonna be out for this season. It doesn't mean he's gonna be 100% as soon as he steps back onto the football field.
Yeah.
And I understand like now the mental where you talk about it comes into play as well. Like maybe not the exact same attacking player that he was before injury because he's not been in the right headspace. But I think that we've definitely seen a player continuing to upswing and
Mhm.
trend in the right direction this season. And I put out a tweet about that. And I was like, I knew what was going to happen because of what we were just talking about, where people have created this narrative and they refuse to change their opinion. But I
Right.
was surprised at the amount of people that were like giving me backlash just for saying he's played pretty well. Like I didn't say he's playing at like a Pro Bowl level, an all
Yeah.
pro level. He's been a contributor for this defense and obviously helped them in a major way on Sunday.
Yeah, I'm not gonna allow myself to get stuck on, maybe, the past endeavors. Like it's really what's going on right now, and it's refreshing to see. It's refreshing to see. So we'll take this and kind of put it on the offense here because
Mhm.
I was at the stadium on Sunday and had to endure the quarterback change and the temperature of the room when that happened. How did you feel about it? I mean, we didn't have a choice, of course, but how did
Yeah.
you feel going in, how you feel that Mitch was gonna do when he got in the game?
So before I answer that, so I was also I'm at every home game, but like
Yeah,
so
you're there.
being at the Jets game and seeing the switch there. So two home games in a row, we saw a quarterback switch, obviously for
Yeah,
very different reasons. But I was like, man, what is going on right now? And then Mitch comes in, and what I will say is I felt a lot more confident about it before he even threw a pass because my biggest thing with Mitch, even prior to the quarterback switch, was he's being so tentative because he's got somebody, a first round pick, breathing down his neck, knowing that anytime that he makes a mistake, people are going to be clamoring for this guy. On
yeah,
Sunday, there was no other option. He
yeah,
was the guy. Like he can go out and just, I called it F it ball. That's really what he was playing on Sunday because there's nobody behind him. And
absolutely.
obviously, the results were what they were. I mean, and he legitimately was the reason they won. When was the last time we saw the Steelers chew up 5 minutes of clock to end a football game and just
It
the other
was
team didn't get the ball
amazing.
back? They,
It
they
wa
stopped the 2 point conversion, and then Tampa Bay never saw the football again.
it was I was saying, I was like, "I could never leave the stadium early." It doesn't happen at a home game. The Raiders game might have been the closest last Raiders game might have been the closest time for me to, like, leave early knowing that we lost that
Mm,
game, but it just felt good to know that if we get a first down, this is it. But I had to get on a couple of fans because I was like, "Look, he's your quarterback. This is it. You need to get on board because you don't have any other option." Um
yeah.
and even with Kenny in, people wanted to find a reason to be upset and be mad, and I think people were leaning at that moment, they were leaning a little bit to Canada, and then when Kenny got hurt, it was like, "You can't boo this quarterback because it's all you got. You don't have a choice." So they
Right.
they got on board, and I loved how he played. He shook a little rust off. I think they got a little bit of the play calling together enough to, get the ball where it needed to be. And he stood in there and did what he needed to do. So it was so funny. I actually called for Mitch to start this game.
Oh,
I was
like this
like,
upcoming one?
yeah, this previous game against Tampa Bay. I was like, put Mitch in. Like, just
Oh,
go ahead
okay.
and put him in.
I
So I kind of got my wish a little bit. Nothing against Kenny. It was just like, like, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to speak to the Canada thing because I feel like a low bar, obviously. I mean, there's not it's not like I'm a fan of Matt Canada by any means, but I thought that he called a pretty decent game on Sunday. And I think that the biggest thing that I have to go on based off that is you look at the route trees of the receivers. They were in the middle of the field. I mean, if you look at what Chase Claypool did, 7
yeah,
catches on 7 targets, but that was all over the place. He was running all, to the middle of the field, left boundary, right boundary, everywhere. And I thought that Matt Canada actually called a pretty decent game. It goes back to, again, I'm not like sitting here saying that Matt Canada should be the offensive coordinator going forward after the season or
yeah,
anything like that. But when there is some positive things to talk about with somebody, it's okay to talk about them. Like it doesn't always have
yeah.
to be like the big picture outlook. He helped them win a game on Sunday.
Absolutely. I mean, it was all around effort. I mean, this was one of those games. I was Chris Boswell on the injury report. I know it seemed like he hurt something. I don't.
He definitely was dealing with something.
Yeah,
His name was not brought up though
yeah. I
by
didn't
Tom at
see it
least
on
yet.
the report at all, but
Yeah.
hopefully all is well with him. Um, But with as far as the play calling and stuff with Claypool, let's just start with Claypool. I knew he had to be the guy. With Pat Freiermuth out, I'm like, you gotta get this guy, you gotta use his body in the middle of the field. You just have to, or you're not gonna be successful. If it wasn't gonna be the run game, and I'm really, really high on using both of those running backs,
Mhm.
then it had to be Chase. It just had to be. So I'm
Well, I
just
think what's
I'm
what's
thankful.
interesting about that too is they kinda used him as a tight end. So,
Yeah.
you're talking about with the absence of Freiermuth, I was thinking, man, it doesn't necessarily bode well with Gentry's skill set. Connor Hayward's a rookie, but he did have, he contributed really nice play,
Right.
linking up with Mitch on a broken play where they couldn't get off the field.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was really Chase Claypool who kind of took a lot of the role that you would expect Pat Freiermuth to have had he been healthy.
It very much reminded me of who? Juju Smith-Schuster, like, it gave me those vibes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I mean, because Chase has been operating pretty much primarily out of the slot, which where
mhm,
Juju did his best work,
yep,
but it's not like they're necessarily the best route runners, it's just being able to use that frame and physical
size,
presence
yep.
on the field and winning in a different way. But yeah, I mean, cap tip to Chase because again, that's a guy I've been pretty hard on, but I don't know how many times I gotta say it, I don't need to be stuck in my ways, my opinions can be fluid, he balled out on Sunday for sure.
Yeah, I respect that so much. I just wish you could pass that on to a lot of Steeler Nation.
I'm trying.
Yeah, we need to put it in the popcorn, pretzels, or whatever at the stadium.
Yeah.
But another, I did touch on the running game, and with Pat coming back, did you feel? I felt like there was sometimes the right side of the field was available and we weren't using it. Did you see any of that?
Hmm. I do have to admit something to everybody right now. So I've literally went back and watched every game on tape. I'll watch it live whether I'm at the stadium or on TV. I did not watch this game back. So like
Mm,
being at the stadium, it's kind of tough to tell.
mhm,
But at least there were definitely always routes to that side. Now, whether Kenny and then Mitch were just for whatever reason not throwing to that area, I don't know.
yeah.
But I definitely like understand what you're saying for
Yeah, it was
sure.
it to me, and I didn't go back and look at all the stats, but to me, it just seemed very left, heavy, left side heavy, and Deontay, I don't know why, I just feel like we don't put him in positions to get yards after the catch. He's always, like, making something, like, very, very difficult on the sideline, um, and, we only had 15 first downs in this game. I don't know if you were
Mhm.
tracking that, but that is, to me,
Well,
quite amazing.
yeah, as a whole offensively, they only had 270 yards of offense. I
Yeah.
think, like, obviously, we know what they did defensively, but really why they won this football game offensively, 7 for 15 on 3rd down. Like, that
Yes,
is why they won this
yes,
football game. That
yes.
is well above
3rd
league average. If that were to be their percentage for the entire season, it would be 3rd in the NFL. I mean, so that is why they were able to win this football game is because they were so successful on the money down. And it's not
down.
like 3rd and short either. I mean, they converted 2 3rd and longs on that last drive
Yes,
of the game
really
decisive
longs.
that we're
It's
talking
just
about.
I think that kinda energized the people because it's just something we weren't used to. We weren't used to seeing those 3rd and longs become first downs. You just felt the energy kinda, like, be released, and as soon as it was, first down again, like, the guys are like, "Oh, okay." So the expectations were just probably low, and they figured out a way to energize those guys. I was just so happy that they got that win, when they were all kinda counted out,
I
and,
think they learned their lesson from the end of the first half to the end of the second half. So end of the first half, really poor management of the clock. They have Kenny throw
mhm,
the ball out of bounds on
mhm,
first. Obviously, the plan wasn't to throw the ball out of bounds, but that's what the result of the play was. So you stop the clock, and Tampa only has 2 timeouts. So then you decide to run on 2nd and 3rd down. They use their 2 timeouts. Tampa gets the ball back, completes 2 passes to get in field goal range. Boom, they get 3 points before halftime when they should have never saw the football again. I
yeah,
think that they were way too passive there or like you got to decide. You can't be aggressive on first down and then passive on second and third. So then in the fourth quarter, they just said, we're going to win this football game. Tampa's not getting the football back. We got 4.5 minutes to kill. They pick up
yeah.
3 first downs and it's ball game.
Yes, there were some, criticism about, the penalties and, who's getting penalties, but, how do you feel about the offensive line? I'm not too critical of them, like I thought I was gonna be in the beginning of the season. So what's your takeaway with them right now?
Yeah, I think that they've been very solid, well above expectation in terms of pass pro for
Yeah,
sure. They're not letting their quarterbacks take a ton of hits. I know that people are to be like, well, they got Kenny Pickett hurt on Sunday. I understand, there was some miscommunication there, and that happens. It's
it
unfortunate
happened.
the result of it, but as a whole, Mitch Trubisky still leads the team in sacks accounted for, meaning he himself is the reason that he's taken 5 sacks. The offensive line, nobody else has more than two. So they've been pretty solid as a pass protection unit. Now in the run game, I'm still very skeptical of the work that they've put forward. At this point in his career, Chukwuma Okorafor kind of is what he is. He's very good in pass pro, kind of offers nothing in the run game. Dan Moore is kind of the same way on the other side. So when both of your tackles aren't necessarily the best run blockers, I think, if you're not running up the middle, and that's the thing with Najee, he wants to bounce everything to the outside right now when neither tackle is a good run blocker. So
Yeah,
you're really getting
it's
nothing
tough.
in that area.
Yeah.
So the only time they're having any success running the ball is going up the middle.
Yeah, so another thing I wanted to talk about as far as execution for the offense this week against the Miami Dolphins. What do you think the keys are for their success? Is it, definitely getting something done on the ground? Is it a combination? I mean, also going to be depending on if we have Kenny Pickett or Mitchell Trubisky. What do you think those keys to success are this week?
Yeah, I don't wanna say that I've, like, fully given up on them trying to be able to establish something on the ground, but, like, I mean, clearly Najee's he's not 100%, and, he can say what he wants about taking that plate out of his foot and everything like that, feeling like he's close to 100%. I think that they definitely should be giving Jalen Warren more work. I understand that there's some skepticism there, and not a large body of work. He's put the ball on the ground a couple times throughout
Yeah,
training camp and once in the regular season, but there definitely needs to be more balance back there in terms of the snaps that both of them are getting. But I'm looking at Miami's secondary being a little bit banged up. Now he's played throughout this, but Xavier Howard has been
Howard.
dealing with
Yeah.
like a quad injury. I know that like Thursday night football a couple weeks ago, he ended up finishing the game like with an ice pack
Mm.
taped around his leg. He's one of the premier corners in this league, but when he's not healthy, when you talk about the corner position with a bad wheel,
Yeah,
I think that our wide receivers are
avoid
going to be
it.
able to kind of take advantage of that. You got Chase Claypool coming off the game that he had. I think it's going to be about getting, and I'm not saying like take a bunch of deep shots. I think the medium passing game is where I'm probably targeting to start out this game and seeing where it goes. Finally, getting some yak opportunities for Deontay Johnson, for Chase Claypool, for George Pickens, for Pat Fryermuth if he's able to go in this game in the middle of the field as well. So yeah, middle of the field, medium depth, and that's probably where I'm starting this game to attack.
Yeah, I want to see middle of the field. Like that's what I need. I need middle of the
Mm-hmm.
field. And I'm looking forward to Pat and Claypool and Pickens and Deontay. And I definitely want to see some yak. I feel like that's what we're missing. We're
Mm-hmm.
missing those plays. And whoever is at quarterback, they got my support. I'm not even gonna do that.
Yeah, well, what's so weird is, like, historically, you look at the trends for Kenny at Pitt and for Mitch in his time in Chicago, not obviously much to go based off of in Buffalo, but
Right.
both of them are historically guys that they roll out to the right, and then middle of the field is where they do their best work. Why that has not been the
Happening.
tendency here in Pittsburgh, why that's not what we're seeing happen, I have no clue because a lot of their strengths are the exact same thing. I think the one difference is, Kenny probably, and I know that Mitch actually before, Kenny took over was leading the league in attempts 20 plus yards down the field. But, talking about historical tendencies here, Kenny is typically the one that will keep his eyes down the field looking to make plays where Mitch might be more willing to just get the ball out of his hands and check down,
Check down,
which not
yeah.
necessarily having an issue with. I mean, this offense is supposed to be built around getting the ball in the hands of the playmakers, but it's just so interesting to me that the offense looks nothing like what the QB strengths are at this point.
Hmm, I wonder why. Um,
We talk about it all day.
yeah, I wonder why. But before one last thing, I don't want to let you go just yet
Uh,
because we talked about the middle of the field,
mhm.
and you talked about Mitch and Kenny. To me, aren't that different, but for some reason last week I didn't see Kenny rolling out much. Did you?
No, no,
Yeah, I
I
thought
don't
that was
know.
strange.
Yeah, I don't know if that was game plan oriented or what that was about, but yeah, that was definitely something that I picked up on as well because again, he's typically a guy that is part of his strengths, getting
Yeah,
out of the pocket and being able to make plays out of structure. Literally, if somebody asked me to describe the best asset of Kenny Pickett's, it's making plays out of structure when things
yeah.
break down and he's outside of the pocket.
That's
So
what I love.
to
Yeah,
not
that's
see
what I love.
him, really doing that much on Sunday, I I tend to go back to that being part of just the game plan,
Mhm.
or maybe it was a one off. Maybe just for whatever reason things didn't happen that way. Again, the offense, they won this football game, but the offense necessarily as a whole wasn't great. They were just that effective on third down.
Yeah, yeah, third down. So I think that's still a key to go into the next game. Execute on third downs and turn those threes into sixes. And I think they can figure out a way. Oh, and get 21 points. The Steelers are struggling
The
to get
race to
over
21.
21. So
Yeah.
it's still a race to 21 for me.
Hey,
But
I said they were going to score 20 against Tampa. I just had Tampa scoring well over 20.
yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah. I had the Steelers under 21, excuse me, just because it's just been the pattern, not even just for this season, last season too. It's just really difficult for them to get to 21. So it's still a game for 21, first to 21 for me for this week. But please tell everybody where they could follow you and listen to around 412, please.
yeah. So my Twitter handle, my Instagram handle, everywhere at Zachary Smith PGH. Yeah, so I host a podcast with my co-host Tyler. It comes out once a week called Around the 412. That is literally how you search it as well. That's on all social media, YouTube, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Honestly, the most important thing that we do, and the only thing that I really care to plug anytime that I do anything like this, is our Christmas mission, Rocking Around the 412. This is year
Awesome.
5 of doing so. In the first 4 years of doing it, we've raised over $20,000 to go directly to helping families provide Christmas for their kids in the 412 and 724 areas. Every single penny that is donated goes directly to these families, and then we provide a bunch of gifts, giveaways for the people that donate. So that's kind of our way of helping give back. Last year, we raised over $11,000. We're able to help 30 kids across 13 families. And the mission of the entire thing is to just take the financial burden away from these families at Christmas time. Tyler and I have always been super fortunate. We always knew where Christmas was coming from. We know that's not the case for everybody. So to just be able to give back in a little way, we also get a $100 gift card for each of the families for like Walmart or whatever their local
That's
grocery
dope.
store is to be able to provide the holiday meal to go along with
I
being able
love
to
it.
open all those gifts. So
Tell
yeah, rocking
everybody
around the
where they can
412.
donate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so rocking
donate
around
to
the
them.
412, it's if you're on Twitter, it's our pinned tweet on Twitter. If not, you can go directly to gofundme.com, search rocking around the 412, and it'll be right there. The picture that you will see is literally one of the families that we helped out last year.
Okay, and let me know if there's anything I can do to help, push that. I will,
Absolutely.
'cause that's
Yeah.
amazing. So thank you so much for joining me today. We'd love to have you back on. And are you going to the game on Sunday?
I will not be there. So I go to all the home games. I have yet to actually be at a Steelers away game. Never.
What? We got to get you to
I
one.
know that surprises you. I knew that would surprise you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, I'll see you at the next home game. Don't worry.
Yeah.
And I'll represent for both of us in Miami here.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, man.
All right. Thank you.